reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. Hi everybody, I am here talking to Paul Loynd from Hawken. He is the senior producer for the game, and we're going to take a look a little bit about the game and some new stuff that you're talking about now. There's three different things that we're talking about. Can you give us a quick overview, and then we'll get into some details when we see it?
Sure. So the main three things that we'll be talking about are, number one, the new mech coming out, the Technician, a new map called Valkyrie that was a white box map during closed beta, but has now been skinned and is ready to get deployed for the players. And then finally, the destruction PhysX by NVIDIA that we have implemented into the game that will be coming later on.
Awesome. So let's take a look.
All right. So this guy here is our next new mech coming up. He will be coming out in the April patch. He is the Technician. He's the first mech in the game that can heal other players. We're really, really excited about the Technician because he's going to flip the game on its head, right? Mm-hmm. There's never been a healing mechanism for other mechs. You could only repair yourself, which meant that you were being taken out of battle whenever you had to repair, right? Now you can stay on the front lines, and if you have a buddy who's playing the Technician, he can keep you healed. So you've seen different colors from the beam there. The gold color was when you use your special ability. It's kind of like the Uber charge from the medic in TF2. It gives you healing and damage resistance. Green is healing, and red means you're damaging other enemies. The Technician is not meant to be a killer. The red beam that you saw there, it does damage, but it doesn't do a ton of damage. And the reason for that is we don't really want the Technician to be a frontline mech, right? The vision that we have for the Technician is for players that like to hang back a little bit. They want to play Hawken, but they don't feel comfortable on the front lines. They like to hang back a little bit more and support their teammates. We haven't really had a support mech up until now. So this is going to open up the game a lot, I think, for players who don't really have those really well-refined twitch skills that some of the other mechs require. A lot of our mechs have a very high bar of entry for skill. Any of the mechs with like charge mechanisms, holding down the buttons and dodging around and holding your aim on somebody, it's not a simple thing. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of skill. But we want to open the game up, right? And we feel the Technician is going to be the first step in really bringing Hawken to a wider audience, as well as adding some really awesome mechanics to the game. I'm really worried about heavy Technician combos now. The heavy's going to be a monster if you have a Technician behind him. I mean, just like in TF2, right? Kill the medic, don't kill the heavy, because you're not going to win that fight. And it's going to be the same here. We're really interested to see what kind of tactics the players come up with once we introduce the heavy. He also has a new primary weapon called the modded SMC. That weapon puts a debuff on enemies. So every time you hit them, it stacks a debuff that causes them to take more damage, up to a maximum of 15%. So you've got this guy healing his friends and causing you to take more damage. He's going to be pretty nasty. We are also giving you equivalent experience for healing so that players who play the Technician can be on the top of the boards with the guys that are going like 35 and 5, right? The reason for that is we want to incentivize players to use that role, right? Just because you're healing doesn't mean you're of a lower value. We want people to feel like whatever role they pick on the battlefield mm-hmm. is of equal value, as long as they're playing to their strength. It's part of a bigger vision, right? We have this vision for mech personality and mech individuality. It's what we're calling it. In the beginning, when we started off 12-12-12, there was differences in the mechs, but some of them had some of the same weapons, some of them had similar abilities. Really, the biggest differentiation was: are you in a light mech? Are you in a medium mech? Are you in a heavy mech? With not too much difference between the details, right? We always wanted to have it be a lot deeper than that, but obviously the game's an open beta. We've been developing, we've had a lot of work on our plates, so it's taken time for us to get to where we want to be, and now we're finally able to start putting this personality, this flavor into each one of the mechs, so that whenever a player buys a mech, they feel that strong attachment of, this is why I bought this mech, and they can immediately point to like a few key things. So for the technician, it's like, he's a healer, he debuffs guys, and he's a support mech. I'm all about that, right? Kind of the same way when players play League of Legends, right? Like, each champion is very unique. They have a very specific play style. You learn that play style, and there's also a synergy between the champions and other champions, right? We want that same synergy with Hawken. That's what we're building for, right? So that when the technician gets on the field, that's going to change up the gameplay. You have to change your strategy now because they have a technician or two technicians on their team, right? And the other mechs that we'll be releasing this year, they're going to continue to introduce synergy like that, so that when players start to see these mechs, they start to recognize patterns and start saying, oh man, I have to do this with this pair, or like whether you're fighting with or against them, you know, now it's going to create a new gameplay experience or a different gameplay experience every time, because you have to adapt to the situation. It's not just, you know, I have to shoot and dodge, which is really where we're at right now. You know, like, obviously there's a level of skill involved. It's not as simple as shoot and dodge, right? There's a lot about understanding the economy of movement with the mechs in the game. Hawken is very interesting in terms of movement, right? In typical FPSs, you're a dude running around, right? And the movement's really straightforward. You aim around and you run. In Hawken, we have dodging, we have boosting, we have hovering, you know, and even the way that the mechs move. It was always very important for us to mimic and create the feeling of being inside of a mech.
Right. And you got to balance somehow, and I don't know how you did it, where you're balancing the frenetic pace of Team Fortress 2, you know, classic Doom, all that sort of stuff, while still somehow getting the weight of a mech. It feels like a mech.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas you look at something like Mech Warrior, which is much more tactical, less twitch-based. You know, you're slowly plotting, even on the fastest mech, you're not looking at the same speed as Hawken. This is deathmatch for mechs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's really interesting. And was that something that was really important right from the very beginning?
Right from the get-go, one of the core pillars of the game was always, how do we create that feeling of being in a mech while at the same time maintaining that fast and frantic pace of an FPS? Like, you think about the range of FPSs from the beginning till up till now. You know, you think about Counter-Strike, you think about Call of Duty, you think about Battlefield, and the pace of those games was all very important to the gameplay, right? We wanted that pace, but we also wanted the feeling of a mech, right? Like, no one has ever done that. I can't think of a single game that I've played where it feels like Hawken.
Right. Well, you got just, I don't know if you saw the classic console free play upstairs. They've got Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion.
Right, which is also very plotting and,
yes.
and going through.
And has a giant controller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, it is. I do think it's something that's quite unique in the gameplay style.
Yeah, like I said, it's an extremely important part of the core gameplay. Yeah. It's what sets up everything else. And so learning to understand how those mechs move, something as simple as like when you strafe right and then you strafe back left, you don't strafe right back left. Your mech has to account for that movement. There's a weight and there's a mass, like you talked about, right? And so when players start to learn that and understand that, they start to master those things. But we want it to be more than that as well, right? You know, when I was talking about other mechs there, you know, I can't specifically talk about what's coming after the technician, but we have more mechs that are coming that are going to add a lot of very unique elements to the gameplay, and they're going to give players options for how they want to engage the battlefield or how they want to support their team members. Again, that's another core pillar of Hawken, is the team gameplay. Yes, we have deathmatch, right? You can do one against all in the game, but where Hawken really shines, in my opinion, is that team play in either team deathmatch or siege or missile assault, where mechs working together, you know, you working together with your teammates and understanding the synergy between the different mechs and how to like work together tactically. That's where Hawken really comes out into its own. So yeah, we're really excited for the coming mechs this year. We'll be releasing mechs every month over the year, and yeah, I'm really excited to get those into the hands of the players.
And the technician is available now?
The technician will be available the second week of April, our April patch.
Yeah, and is that something players buy through the store?
Correct. So,
have you finalized the price yet?
The same price as all the other mechs. Yeah. All our mechs are, I don't think we have any different prices for the mechs right now. So yeah, he'll be the same price. So next up, I want to show you our new map. This is Valkyrie. Valkyrie is a very, very different map style from the other maps that we have in the game right now. It's basically the polar opposite of Andromeda. Andromeda was a very dark, grungy, kind of squat Asian ghetto, whereas Valkyrie is a much more clean and affluent area, right? Think commercial / executive housing. It all is controlled by corporations, very, very rich corporations. So they're not all like poor areas. There are some areas where there's affluence, and we kind of wanted to show that off and show the different sides of the world of Hawken. A lot more brighter colors, a lot more white, a lot cleaner lines. It's rounder on some of the edges and things like that. And it's a much bigger map than a lot of the maps that we have in the game currently.
A much cleaner color palette.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the players are going to really be excited about is the fact that the mechs are going to be a lot easier to spot against the contrast. One of the things that we know that the players sometimes are not too fond of is when mechs kind of bleed into the background of some of the darker maps. So this map is a lot easier to spot mechs on. We actually tested this map during our closed beta, but it was white boxed at the time. So that is Valkyrie with everything on it, all dressed up. That map will be coming later on.
I do have one question as you're getting the next thing set up here. What was the most unintended consequence of bringing the technician into the Hawken world? Or did everything go pretty much like you expected?
No, things didn't go like that. The most unintended consequence was mechs that never died, like ever. Yeah. Obviously when we bring new mechs into the game, balance is a very important issue. And adding a mech that can heal other mechs is, that's a very powerful ability. So we wanted to be able to balance it enough so that there was still, you could still overcome that strategy, but just like in TF2, right? Don't kill the heavy, kill the medic. Right. But it was, in the beginning when we first messed with it, like it was so powerful that like you could have 5 mechs firing at that mech and it was just not gonna die. And we were all like, yeah, that's probably a little too powerful. We wanted to be a way to break lines, right? Like imagine a heavy rolling through and in some opposition, maybe you got 3 mechs at a choke point and you want to kind of gain some ground, like the heavy would use the technician to kind of bust through and get some space for the mechs behind him to move in and attack. But I mean, before it was he could just roll in and kill all of them himself. It's pretty funny. We enjoyed it for a little while, but then we obviously had to ratchet it down. That's always a fun thing. That's it. It usually something like that always happens when we add new things. We haven't balanced them and we try them out in a play test and they're like crazy overpowered, and then we have to okay, we gotta tweak it a little bit. So that's always a fun part of the game.
Oh, cool.
Next, I would like to show you our destruction demo with NVIDIA. So before I start this video here, this is PhysX destruction technology from NVIDIA. NVIDIA worked directly with us to get this integrated into the game. We just got it build going like a couple weeks before the show. So we were really excited to show this here at the show. We have a demo down at NVIDIA's booth right across from our booth. So if you want to actually go get some hands-on time with it, they have a few machines down there playing. So this level was created specifically for the tech, and we really feel this is going to take Hawken to the next level. This tech gives us fully destructible environments. So now missiles are blowing up walls, they're blowing up floors, anything can get blown up, smashed, destroyed. What's even better is mechs now have weight. So if you are running around and you have a large mech, it's not just shoot a missile at a wall and the wall blows up. It's actually, if I have a big enough mech, I can just dash through a wall. Like, these are 20-foot war machines, right? Like, that big heavy mech isn't going to be stopped by a little bit of concrete and rebar. He's going to smash right through it. You get vector-based physics where, like, depending on where the explosion hits, the chunks fly that way and chunks chunks will hit the mech, see him dash through the wall like that. We really think that this is, see there's the heavy busting through the wall there. It's so awesome. This is really something that we think is going to take Hawken's not just its visual appeal, but its actual design appeal to the next level. I mean, imagine, remember, we all know Battlefield and those moments when you're sitting in a building and it's been getting pounded by missiles, and then all of a sudden you just hear that, and everybody knows, like, okay, time to go, you know? And that changes the flow of battle too, right? Because you know that you can't just sit and camp behind the same wall over and over and over. It'll cause the battle to be very organic and flow. Now, obviously, there's design issues that we're going to have to tackle as we implement this tech, because when we designed the maps initially, we didn't design them with the idea that they were going to get blown up. So obviously, we'll have to think about, you know, what can be blown up, what can't be blown up.
So how deep into it did you go? I saw floors there, I saw walls. If I take out every wall in the building, is that building coming down, or is it just going to have the structural supports left and every wall gone?
We haven't gone as far as to create like an actual like demolition of a building if you fully blow up everything. But that level was almost entirely destroyable. Like everything except for the struts would be blown up. So anything that was concrete, any non-metal object is going to get blown up. That level in particular, like if you play it long enough, you could level the entire level. So it's pretty awesome. There's technical issues with that, obviously, because when you have chunks everywhere, it starts to affect the game a little bit. So,
wait, and how are you balancing the hardware requirements? You know, with something that requires a skill like Hawken, and you have to have such quick reactions. Now you're adding this hardware element to it with the PhysX, with all the destructible environments. How are you balancing that for people who don't have the latest and greatest system?
Right. Being able to get Hawken on as many machines as possible, regardless of their configuration, has always been a very important strategy for us. We've definitely been spending a ton of time optimizing the game. Our current min spec is 3 gigabytes of RAM with the equivalent of a 9800 NVIDIA 9800 GT. That's a pretty old card. You know, that's a 512 megabyte card. Most machines nowadays come with a 1 gig card. That's a mid-tier machine. But we wanted to go a little bit lower than that. Not just for our players here, but you know, for players around the world. We realized that, you know, outside of the United States, depending on where you are, the PC spec is a lot lower. Like China, for instance, you know, the average PC spec over in China is a lot lower than here in the States.
So what's their experience going to be like on that lower end? Is it going to be less visual stuff, but still the mechanics there?
There's definitely going to be less visual stuff. We want the mechanics to be there. The technology is something that, you know, we're working on with NVIDIA to make sure that we can provide it. You know, obviously, if it's going to become a design thing, a lot of the visual stuff, right, is like if you have it, you know, like DirectX 11, for instance. DirectX 11 is one of those things where, like, if you have it, it looks cooler, but it doesn't really affect the design of the game. This is something that would actually affect the design, and we can't have some people using it and some people not. So it's definitely something that we will have to implement in a way that everyone would be able to enjoy it. How it would look will probably be a little bit different, you know, in the same way that you do LOD scaling or depth of field or things like that, depending on the level of power of the machine. It's going to be a lot like that, you know, probably less chunks, the chunks will be less detailed, the physics will probably be dumbed down a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely something we're going to have to plan out. But I mean, we have so many ideas for it that we were thinking about game modes revolving around the destruction, like where the destruction is a key element of winning the game. So we thought that would be really cool. Sky's the limit with something like that. But yeah, definitely that's going to have to be something that we implement in a way that everyone could enjoy it. It just might not look as pretty if you have a lower end machine.
And with it being something that is so new that you just, like you said, just got a build going several weeks ago, do you have a time frame for when that might make it into the live game?
You know, like I said, we only got it implemented just a couple weeks ago. So right now, we don't really have a solid time frame for when it will be available in the game, but we're actively working on it, and obviously, you know, we want to get it into the game as soon as possible because we really feel it'll add a lot to the game. So like I said earlier, we're continuing to work with NVIDIA. They continue to provide great support for us, both through their APIs as well as, you know, actual developer support. They've sent guys to us on site to help us out. They've been a great partner, so I'm sure that, you know, working together with them, we'll be able to get it going fairly quickly. I would love to see it this year, but I can't promise that. I can't promise that. I mean, we have so much to do. We have so much that we're working on. You know, Hawken is a very organic thing. We see ourselves continually updating and improving the game for years to come. It's one of the great things about free-to-play. It's one of the reasons I love free-to-play so much is when it's done right, you know, you can provide an amazing experience to players, a AAA gaming experience for free that continues to evolve and grow. And if they like the game, you know, they'll spend money on it. So we want to provide the best experience possible, and that's going to come in the form of new maps, new modes, new game modes, new mechs, and new features. We have our party feature coming online soon. We have achievements coming online, clans. We have big plans for clans. Clans have always been a very important thing to us. You know, I'm a very hardcore FPS player, so, you know, I've always been in clans, and I've wanted clans to be an integral part of the game, right? Not just like I have a forum somewhere. You know, we're looking at clans in a much different view. You know, we want it to be a very key part of the game. So yeah, lots of big stuff coming for Hawken.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul. That was fantastic. I'm really excited to see how having a mech that's going to heal is going to change things up. I haven't played in a couple months. This is going to come. I'm going to jump back in when I get back home, and I just envision playing heavy with a support behind me and just wading through the enemy lines.
Exactly. We're really excited for how the technician is going to mix up the gameplay. It's going to flip the game on its head a little bit, and players are going to have to relearn a lot of strategies and relearn how to engage heavy mechs especially. Heavy mechs are going to be a real force to be reckoned with now when they have a technician behind them. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, can you have a couple of technicians working on one mech and supporting it?
Yes. I mean, if you have two technicians on your team, they can both be healing the same mech. I would not want to fight that mech. So you're not going to kill him.
You could have a team of one heavy and the rest technicians, and you're set.
I mean, if you had 5 technicians and one heavy, like the heavy would probably never die, but then they'd just kill all the technicians. So technicians aren't terribly great at defending themselves. You know, he's a support mech. He's not really meant to be a killer. He's meant to help the killers. So we're really interested to see how players decide to spread it out. You know, do you do 3 mechs and 3 technicians? You know, we've done a lot of testing and balancing behind it. And so we're interested to see what the community does, but we feel he's nice and balanced. We're still tweaking a few things before we release him, but yeah, it's going to be fun to see.
So when you get home and you don't have a specific agenda that you're looking to get in game, you're not testing anything specific, what type of mech do you play and what type of style do you have in game?
The Berserker. He's my favorite mech. He's the love of my life. You put the Vulcan cannon on that bad boy, and he does terrible things. He's a light mech, and I like to use him in close combat. And I'll put the repair charge on him with the machine gun turret. So I'll drop the machine gun to distract people, and then I'll dance around. I put all my points into movement. And he's just super fast, and you know, when you just have that Vulcan spinning and you're launching tow missiles, he's a nightmare. So. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite.
Awesome. Sounds like fun. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm really looking forward to getting back in game and trying out all the new stuff when it comes out.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks for your time.